Sup lads, I'm a Stimo, or Need for Sleep, and I would like to talk to you guys about the June 27th Guild Wars 2 Balance Patch preview. The reason for doing so is that I believe this update contains some things that are extremely good for the direction of the game, and there are also some things that make me want to pull my eyes out and get hit by a truck. The forums, Reddit, and the internet in general seem to be in agreement because of the constant arguing and bitching and all of these thank you for exchange and listening to my woes posts, and all of these other posts, what the fuck are you doing ArenaNet, why'd you change my class, etc, etc. Now, before you click off the video because you see it's just some random dipshit talking and an obscenely long video length, just allow me the chance to introduce myself as a Guild Wars 2 player, my credentials, so to speak. I've been a Guild Wars 2 player since launch, on and off the game, and I've had my hardcore stints in the game. My hardcore stints. But these days I just consider myself a washed up casual. I have cleared all forms of instant PvE content, i.e. raids, strikes, fractals, with the challenge modes, without purchasing or buying them. I hover between goals 1 in 3 in ranked PvP, however, I don't play too regularly and consider myself generally an idiot when it comes to the game mode. I do still have fun in it. I consider myself a PvP enjoyer. I play on Darkhaven NA for World vs. World, and I don't have as much experience in the game mode as some of these Ultimate Dominator, Giga Chad, Legend of the Mist players, but I played enough to be ranked 928, and with this recent influx of new players from other MMOs like WoW or Final Fantasy, there's a lot of people running around in World v World these days, and I'm just having a lot of fun EBG killing people. Most of my time is spent in World v World these days. Anyway, enough about me. If I still have your attention, if I still have your attention, thank you, and let's just get into it. Hi everyone, welcome to the preview for the June 27th Balance Update. As always, the goal of previewing these changes is to gather your feedback before the live release. We'll be following the conversation and making sure further adjustments are needed. Okay, thanks, Cal. Well, let's engage in conversation. As we mentioned in the last Studio Update blog, the primary goals for this update are improving the feeling of moment-to-moment gameplay for many boon support builds. We want these builds to have more flexibility in their utility skill choice and not be required to activate a particular utility type on cooldown in order to provide quickness or alacrity. So you're just not set there pressing buttons so everyone has green numbers or orange running man. This is nice. Introducing alternate playstyles for some specializations. They did this with Scourge and I think Deadeye, and maybe some others that I missed. Tuning up some underutilized weapons and solidifying their roles within their professions. Warrior rifle, probably. Removing additional skill-specific type retard. Okay, so this is just the general cooldown reduction across the board for everybody. Let's get into it. General. To make them more reliable in endgame PvE content, all effects that benefit when the player strikes from the flank or behind now always apply their benefits when striking defiant foes. It's worded complicatedly, I think, but what I think this means is whenever there is a defiant bow or anything with a break bar, if you have effects that benefit from flanking, you will get that even if you're face-to-face with the boss. And if so, this is a huge W. This is an amazing change. Speaking from a warrior main since launch, I've had to put up with thief runes and all that bullshit for the last how many years. Rangers having to flank for crit cap and things like that. Oh my days, this is beautiful. If this is how I think it works in my head, then this is an amazing change. So W ArenaNet, good job. Confusion has been adjusted in the following as follows in PvE only. So I'm guessing this is just because Mirage players are insane, or the one person that can play Mirage properly. I don't understand confusion, I never have. I just know it kills me a lot as a warrior. If there are any mathematicians in the comments who can tell me what this means, I would love to know. But genuinely, I'm just a monkey brain warrior main that has no idea what any of this shit means. Elementalist. Catalyst quickness isn't provided by utility skills. but we felt it could still benefit from a usability improvement. We've updated Spectacular Sphere to grant quickness from any Jade Sphere instead of only the Air Sphere, which would give Catalyst players a bit more flexibility with their skill rotations. We've also made some improvements to Tempest damage builds with an update to Tempestuous Aria, as well as some general improvements for Offhand Dagger and the Weaver in PvP. I like this. Offhand Dagger skills are pretty clunky, so let's get into Fire Grab. So this is Fire Dagger 5. The attack angle was increased to 60 to 90 degrees. I've always found it a bit weird to hit. The flame effect looks a lot bigger than it actually is, so after testing this in-game on the update, we'll see if this is good or not, but I like this. Cooldown reduction. Just for this entire video, just for the sake of clarity and not to waste your time, all these cooldown reduction traits, I'm just going to be skimming over them quick so we can get through quickly. Anyway. Updraft, radius increase, Churning Earth. So this is a Earth Dagger 5, which now you don't have this 2-second charge build up. You just do a leap, and then you hit people with some bleed. So took a little bit of a dip in power, I believe. Yes, a little bit of less power, but it's I don't feel like if I cast it, I'm just going to die. Because if you're I play a lot of support Tempest in PvP. I never want to cast this skill unless I need a blast finisher, because it's just me standing there for 2 seconds waiting to get hit by something and get instantly spiked or killed by the enemy team. So now I can press Dagger 5 again, so this is nice. This is what I wanted to talk about though. I'm not sure if this is going to be amazing or I'm just crazy and it means nothing, but Written in Stone. This trait no longer reduces the recharge of Signet skills, and now grants an aura to the Elementalist after using a Signet skill. So right now, if you're currently unaware with how Teal Tempests work, is they provide a lot of auras. They share Fire Aura, Magnetic Aura, Shocking Aura, Frost Aura, and they spam that on everyone, bubbles for everybody. And the way to achieve that is by using your shouts, like Aftershock and Frostburn, or whatever the frosty one is, I can't remember off the top of my head. Flash Freeze. And use those for auras. You use dagger skills for auras, like Dagger Air 3, Fire Focus 4, Dagger, Water Dagger 4, things of that nature. You know, you're just spamming out auras. Just throwing auras all over the place. This gives all of our signets auras as well, and some of them, these signets, are insane, because Written in Stone, what it does, it also, when you cast a signet, you can continue to keep the passive effect of the signet while the skill is on cooldown, so you still benefit from it. And combining that with Signet of Earth, this passive effect no longer grants toughness, but instead reduces incoming strike damage. I'm going to assume this is going to be 10%. I'm going to assume it's like a 10% or 10% or 5%. God forbid if it's a 20% reduction, but 10% reduction. You can just press this button for a magnetic aura, like a reflect for your whole team, in conjunction to its original effects from Signet of Stone, which I believe is an immobilize, but you also just flat out have a 10% strike damage reduction. That's insane. And then all the other aura, like instead of using Wash the Pain Away, you can now use the Glyph, because that gives an aura so you heal your allies better. This is insane. Like, I'm not an Elementalist main, but I think I'm going to be having a lot more fun with support Tempest than I have been recently. This seems amazing. Then cooldown reduction, Arcane Brilliance, buff, extra damage for strike, yada 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 yada. Cooldown. Okay. Tempestuous Aria. This trait no longer causes shouts to inflict weakness, and it now grants the Tempest a bonus to outgoing damage for a period of time after applying an aura to an ally. So now Tempest has 2 damage modifier traits, because you have like something Singularity, Lucid Singularity or some shit like that, where if you complete your overload, you get a 15% condition damage and 15% damage buff for the next so-and-so seconds while you go into your next overload. Now just using any of your shouts, like Feel the Burn, Flash Freeze, you apply an aura to everybody, and every time you apply an aura to an ally, you get this buff, which I'm going to assume is, I don't know, maybe a 7% to a 7 to 10 to 15% damage buff. Let's just say that. I don't know the numbers because they're not giving us the numbers, but blah 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 blah. I like this, but not from a damage DPS Tempest perspective. I like this from a support Tempest perspective, because part of the gameplay of a support Tempest is you are in the thick of things a lot. You are dealing damage. You're casting your auras. You're using your overloads, where your avatars of the elements, your fire tornado, fire overload, the water sphere when you bubble, creating a lightning storm with overload air, and creating a platform of churning earth, like you're from Avatar: The Last Airbender. You're an earthbender with earth attunement. You're in the thick of it. You're in melee range. You're dancing about, splashing people with water in the middle of combat, but you're still damaging enemies. So this could just be fun from a support player's perspective. Maybe I've got a bit more bite. Could be fun, or it could just be nothing. Weaver. Shearing Edge, increased projectile speed, Twin Strike, cauterize. I'm going to be honest, I don't play Weaver. There's like 3 people in the world who play this class well. Cello Frag, and I don't know. I don't understand Weaver. I never will. It's too complicated for me. I guess this is okay. There's like some slight buffs, slight nerfs, but it doesn't seem anything crazy. Oops, sorry. And the Catalyst upgrades. So this trait now grants quickness when deploying your Jade Sphere in any attunement, in addition to the boons currently granted. Quickness duration reduced from 5 to 2 seconds. So air, you're still going to get that big chunk of quickness, but now casting any of your spheres, you will be able to provide quickness. That's my understanding of this. So improving the viability, or at least the accessibility, or the fluidity, the ease of play for a quickness catalyst, I would assume that this is a quality of life improvement, that you're not just locked into air, you're allowed to press your other buttons. I'm not sure, I don't play quickness catalyst, but let me know if this means anything. Engineer. Mechanist penalty from being too far from its mech is something that we've been keeping an eye on since it was first added to the game. We think there's room for improvement, and in this update, we're changing the penalty from a mech stat reduction to an increased cooldown for the mech command skills. We believe that this change will make the penalty more visible and easier to access. Scrapper is also getting an adjustment to how it applies quickness, with kinetic accelerators now triggering when successfully finishing a combo with a leap or blast finisher. That sounds like some fun gameplay, drop a lightning field and you spin with your hammer, and then everyone around you gets jolted with electricity with quickness, so they're going to hit things faster. It's very Scrapper-esque, Scrapper is like the bruiser engineer that's willing to get in there down and dirty, and part of the vibe is, unstable technology, these gyros, these things that are sparking all over the place. So a mechanist flailing about with leaps and blast finishes and blowing shit up, and somehow everyone around you is benefiting. This is some peak class fantasy. I really love this. Quick Scrapper has been a lot of fun to play, so let's see. Med Blaster. Reduce range from 600 to 450. The number of boons that affect the skill has been limited to 4 in PvP and World v World. Improve the visual effect of the skill to better match its radius. Some medkit nerfs. I mean, it's pretty powerful. Fumigate. Reduce cooldown, reduce cooldown, base healing. Pry Bob, toolkit, cooldown, quality of life. I don't know any engineer that would be upset about that, besides like maybe a couple of nerfs here and there, but hey, seems alright to me. I'm gonna put my tinfoil hat on for a moment, and Colin Johansson has come back to Guild Wars 2. Colin Johansson is also a engineer main, if I remember correctly. How much this is just, Colin going down to the balance team because he was just pissed off that Elixir H was 25 seconds instead of 20. Why can't all of my things just have a universal cooldown reduction? So he just goes over the balance team one day and is like, hey, I CMC. So how about that NG? How about those NG cooldowns, you know? I don't know. Tinfoil hat off, but it's my own little funny headcanon. I like to think there's some funny shit going on in the ArenaNet offices. Scrapper. Speed of Synergy. Reduced ally super speed from 3 to 2 in World v World only. Reduced personal super speed from 7 to 4 in World v World only. It sucks, but I think this needed to happen. Scrappers are super zippy. You all zip all over the place, can run in and out of combat, come and burst you and then leave. It's pretty ridiculous. On top of all the super speed, you know, they just use they have hammer block, they can leap away with hammer 3, they have elixir gun to leap away. There's so many things that an engineer can do. It's just the elementalist of the medium class. It's crazy how much engineers are capable of. Holosmith. Prime Light Beam. Fix an issue that caused burning from this skill to be applied multiple times per pulse to larger enemies. So what this essentially means is similar to how Berserker's Scorched Earth from the Warrior trait line with the Longbow F1. It works in... Okay. To explain how this damage works is a long cone on the floor, and you have a bunch of squares along that path. Each of those is an instance of damage or a damaging field. That's just how it's coded into the game, so it looks like you have a beam of energy or a lane of fire in front of you. On larger hitbox enemies, these skills could proc multiple times, like Gorseval or Matthias. You could have potentially 3 of these little squares hitting this hitbox and tripling your damage. I find it... I didn't even know that Prime Light Beam did this. Like, it gave the extra damage with the hitboxes. I think it's funny because the Berserker thing, that was removed years ago. Years ago. I'm talking back in Heart of Thorns, that was removed. So the fact that this made it through the game for so long, if it's what it is, it's insane. I'm glad it's fixed, but it also makes me think if there are any other skills that do this. Mechanist. Mechanical Genius. This trait has been reworked. Instead of the mech incurring a stat reduction penalty, command skills now take longer to recharge if the mech is farther than 360 units away from the engineer. Cool. This is I'm gonna call this a simple solution to an elegant solution to a problem. It's elegant because how many of you guys going into your CM fractal groups or your strike groups or whatever group, your PvE groups, and you get a guy that says hi Pam or hi Ham, and you expect this guy to bring green numbers, but when you pull, you see their mech is in fucking Narnia spinning around, and the mechanist is on the boss just pressing one button shooting the thing, and none of you have green numbers, and he doesn't know what's going on. So this is a brilliant change. I love this. Guardian. Support Firebrand is a build that we've been improving in PvP over the last few balance updates, but it hasn't reached the level it needs to. In this update, we're improving the strength of Mantra of Law's initial changes to make Firebrand's condition removal slightly more reliable. The shout cooldown reduction from Pure Voice being rolled into all skills baseline will also allow Firebrands to better utilize Force of Will, while still being able to equip shout skills. Guardian is also getting cooldown reduction added to many other utility type skills, including Signets, Meditations, Consecrations, and Traps. We're excited to see how this increased flexibility affects Guardian builds going forward. Okay. From a perspective... Let's see. Perfect Inscriptions. This trait no longer reduces the cooldown of... Yep. Cooldown. Increase healing. Cooldown. Cooldown. Weighty terms. This trait no longer reduces the mantra charge. Recovery times, increased pages granted from 1 to 2. Opening passage, increase the number of conditions from 1 to 2 in PvP only. Increased ammunition, I'm just going to be honest. I don't play Guardian in PvE too much, so I can't really say from a quick brand or heal brand perspective. I don't know too much. From a PvP perspective, I enjoyed playing Heal Firebrand back in the day in Path of Fire when Heal Firebrand was in every single match. Sometimes you would have 2 or 3 on a team because everyone was queuing it. That was when the healing mantra, or the healing mantra gave Aegis on every application. It was insanely good, on top of all the other BS that Firebrands can do. They were very powerful. Seeing a lot of these skills being added in, like these cooldown reductions, just so I can actually have a toolkit that's not Sanctuary, Revive Signet, and Stun Break. I can actually use some other skills. Yeah. I can see that be fun. I do have, however, want to turn something over to this post on Reddit. Now, I'm not a Firebrand main. I'm not good with Guardian, so these guys have done a lot more brain power. They've used a lot more brain power to think all this stuff out, and something's wrong. So, something's wrong, and Firebrand needs to be addressed. I'll leave a link to this Reddit post in the description, and just go ahead, read it, give the guy the updates, and leave a comment, see if they can get this reversed. The only thing I can really weigh in from a casual Guardian player, I don't like how mantras are as they are with Guardians right now. I understand the concept of the final charge of your mantra being cool. Like, it should give you this amazing effect where it's a decision between, should I keep my mantra active or can I use this final blaze of glory to help my party? But honestly, the only times I find myself ever pressing the last charge of a mantra is if I fat finger it. I don't think I have ever consciously pressed the last charge of a mantra because I just don't want to wait 20 seconds where my party has no quickness, and then I had to spend another eternity recasting the mantra afterwards. It's a pain in the ass. It's not fun to play. However, I do like the concept of the final charge being significant, and it should be a decision. So may I propose an alternative to this? You keep the cooldown of mantras the same as they are right now, 20 seconds, 30 seconds, whatever it is, but when the timer gets refreshed, you just get 3 charges of mantras back. You don't have to recast the thing, you just get the 3 mantras back. And the indicator for that will be the Firebrand voice lines, like choice, freedom, liberation. When after that 20 seconds is up, like, you ding your mantras back, your Firebrand just shouts that out. Because the whole class fantasy in my head of the Firebrand are these lost, purged, hunted, alienated, exiled lore keepers of ancient Ilona, on the run from King Palawa Joko the Inevitable, and they are being hunted down and executed because they keep the stories of true ancient Ilona alive. They're battle librarians going out shouting scripture and purging heretics and zombies and helping their friends. That's Firebrand class fantasy to me, so you need to keep those voice lines in, but Jesus Murphy, mantras are just not fun to play. Regardless, rant over. Mesmer. Mirage evasion has been a major pain point in competitive modes for a long time, and it was something we wanted to address in this update. Mirage will now have 100 endurance in PvP and World vs. World, but will no longer be able to dodge while immobilized or under the effects of crowd control. There it is, boys. We believe that this is a good middle ground between the current version of Mirage Cloak and a potentially larger rework. We'll be keeping a close eye on how it plays out. This is good. You know, they're throwing a hypothetical spool in the wheel or wrench in the wheel. They're throwing the players a bone, and they're just going to see how we react to it. As a warrior player who hates chasing down mirages or just mesmers in general because of how evasive they are, when I stun you, I drop a hammer 5 on you, and you're on the floor, like you're on your chest, like, and I'm just queuing up my hammer 2, and then I just see those fuzzy little purple lines appear, knowing that I got you with the stun, but just because you're a mirage, I can't do shit. This is... I'm happy with this. Purple boys, purple class boys, F's in the chat for you, but I think it had to be done. We've also made some adjustments to Virtuoso Dagger to improve the reliability of its damage in competitive modes. Nice. Let's go through core skills. Signet of Humility. Reduce cooldown from 120 seconds to 60 seconds in PvE only. Now, I'm glad they did this in PvE only. Just hold a point. Just hold a point with that. We'll get through the rest of the changes, and I'm going to come back to this because I'll go on a tangent. Null Field, reduce the range from 1200 to 900. Temporal Curtain, reduce the range from 900 to 600. Null Field is the skill that Mesmers have been using, or support Chronos they've been using in World vs. World to strip boons. So, boon strip, bit harder to use, just a little nerf, nothing too crazy. PvP durability nurse, PvP Condi Chrono nurse. Condi Chrono is pretty busted in PvP. Bunker Condi Chrono or just DPS Condi Chrono. We don't need another Bunker Chrono meta. If anyone remembers Heart of Thorns Season 1, 2, we don't need to do that again, so I'm always in favour of bashing Bunker Chronos. Auspicious Anguish. This trait now has an internal cooldown when you become disabled. There is no internal cooldown when you get Distortion. Jesus, oh wow. There are some evasion nerfs for Mesmer, let's say that. This trait has been reworked, applies distortion to phantasms when they're summoned, so phantasms can't get stunned, they just do their thing. Fair enough. Chronomancer Stretch Time. The trait has been reworked. Flow of time affects nearby allies. Grant alacrity to nearby allies when you summon a phantasm. Now this is a good change for Chronomancer, for a longest time, since the Signet of Inspiration gutting, reworked, or whatever it is now, Chronomancer has just been stand in my wells or you don't get green numbers, which, I mean, it works, but it's not fun. It doesn't really feel particularly time wizardy. Now, just while you're summoning clones, which you're just flashy purple boy, time master, evading attacks, going through loops and wormholes, and all the while you're ripping into the fabric of time and reality, you're spewing out all this alacrity to everyone. Everyone is benefiting because you're a time wizard. You're the one who's ripping the fabric of reality open. And I mean, it's just pressing buttons at the end of the day. I like to dramatize it, but you know, this seems fun from a gameplay perspective as well as a RP Andy perspective. This is good. Another W for Arena. Seize the moment. This trait no longer causes Tides of Time to grant quickness, instead grants quickness to nearby allies when you summon a phantasm. Wow, so quickness updates as well. So it's just our Chrono is going to be doing everything on. Damn. Well of Salinity. Reduce cooldown. Cool. Reduce cooldown. Final Pulse now grants alacrity instead of stupid speed. Okay, cool. Mirage, yep, we don't need to go into that. Yeah, I don't play Mirage, you guys can figure that out. Blade Song Distortion. Reduced distortion duration per blade from 1 second to 0.75 seconds in PvE only. Blade Turn Requiem. This skill no longer blocks incoming attacks. So this is interesting because originally when Virtuoso came out, they just straight up removed distortion. Virtuosos did not get distortion at all. It was only after community bitching and complaining that they brought it back. So they decided to nerf that, so you can only have a... So you're going to have a lot less evasion, and they straight up just took the evasion away from Mesmer F or Virtuoso F4, which is a Blatant Requiem. Is there just a reason to use that skill now? Because I thought that skill was supposed to be a block. It's not a big damaging ability, it just blocks. Now you just swirl a shield of daggers around you, but you don't get blocked. I get it is insane that something can have, I guess, 2 blocks on cooldown, but... And you don't want Mirage or Virtuoso to be too evasion-y, but you literally made Mirage. I don't know. It doesn't seem too out of the blue that... I don't know. I don't really agree with getting rid of the blocks, but I'm not a Mesmer player. We'll just see how this goes. Blade Call. So the Dagger 2 for Mesmer. If the original target of the skill is in range, returning blades will now lock onto that enemy. If not, the blades will return to the player as normal. So just a bit of a DPS increase. Unstable Blade Swarm, Dagger 3. This skill is now a ground target skill instead of a projectile. So gone. Oh, okay, so this is good. So gone are the days of you sending the pink tornado off and it flies off into Narnia and it doesn't do any damage. You can just cast it on something. That's nice. It's like a well. Twin Blade Restoration. Now this is a cool ability because it's a heal that throws daggers at someone, which I think is really cool. And I've always wanted to use it, but for Mesmer the only heal is Signet. There's no other heal that exists, right? Anyway. This skill now always cleanse conditions when healing. The first blade will now always grant Aegis, and the second blade will always grant Vigor. Okay. So right now it just does, it just gives you a random boon, and could cure a condition if it hits. Now it's reliable Condi Cleanse. This is good. I like this. I might actually want to use this. Definitely in PvP. Anything that grants Aegis is just a skill cap increase, which is probably why they got rid of the Blatant Requiem, now that I think about it. Anyway. Blade Renewal. Reduce the channel duration, yada yada. Psychic Force. Reduce the cooldown to 25 seconds in all game modes. Now, if you don't know what Psychic Force is, this is a really, really powerful S-tier stun break. Like, it's on par with Stand Your Ground and Shake It Off. It is an S-tier stun break in terms of its effect. It currently has a 45-second cooldown, but what it does, in conjunction with stun breaking you, you have a 450 range knockback. So if you're trying to if someone's on you, like, you just send someone off to... You can send someone to Africa with this skill. Like, it's insane how far you launch people. And they just reduce its cooldown by 20 seconds for all game modes. I think you're going to see a lot of... in PvP modes, you're going to see a lot of Virtuosos using this. Maybe not. But it's a pretty powerful stun break. Blade Renewal, Dragon Mind, Psychic Reposit. Reduce the number of blades. Yeah, just some quality of life stuff for Dagger. Nothing too crazy. Just Dagger better. I want to preface a lot of what I say about Mesmer. I don't really know too much about this class. I really don't. It's Mesmer and Thief are probably my 2 least played classes. Not because I don't like them, but I've just never been very good at them, honestly. So I've just avoided the class. So take what I say with a pinch of salt. Necromancer. I realize as I'm recording this that I completely glossed over Signet of Humility, and I said I would do that. And the reason for being so, it's just a personal story tangent, and I didn't figure people would be interested in it. So if you aren't, I put a timestamp to the next class, but if you are, here's the story. Well, in World v World, I'm kind of a dick. Like, all I do in the game is just I run around and I drop banners on people for the fun of it, or I start fights. I play on Darkhaven, and if you know anything about Darkhaven, we're in beta right now, but if you know anything about Darkhaven, it's the people that play on the server are just a bunch of rabid wild animals, wild rabid dogs that just run around trying to kill people. Like, no thoughts, head empty. Just if I see an enemy player, it's dead. Like, that's a Darkhaven player. Now, all I really do in the game, if you saw the pictures from earlier, is I just run around bannering people, but I also like to start fights. You know, when you see a karma train of like 50 VIP people running around and they're just 1-1-1ing towers, it can get a bit apprehensive. It might be scary to jump into a group of 50 people. So you got a bunch of players clouding around, waiting to fight, like a bunch of sharks circling like a group of swimmers, But we're too scared to go in, except for me. So what I like to do is I just run in with my greatsword, straight into the center of the Zerg, do a spin, get adrenaline, then drop a fucking F1 on them, cripple them, stun them, maybe even drop a fucking war banner in there. I don't even know. So I drop a war banner, and then when I see things get too dicey, pop in Dear Pain, this and this, and then I'm straight back into my keep. That's all. And my guild tag is IQ, and it's like room temperature IQ. It's kind of toxic, but it's funny. I get noticed a lot, so the point of this is I get rage mode, spite mode, hate mode so much. I swear to God, these guilds are probably just like, dude, the IQ fucker is back. Get ready to mow this cunt. And every time I jump in these days, I just get mowed. And thank God for ArenaNet, they're not making my time 100% worse. The less time I spent mowed, the better. So thank you, ArenaNet. Scourge has always been intended to be a viable support option, but the lack of quickness or alacrity has held it back in endgame content, so outside of specific cases that won't be an issue anymore. We've adjusted Desert Empowerment to be that source of alacrity. With Scourge support likely becoming viable in general use, we feel that its reviving power was just a bit too high, and we have made some adjustments to bring it more in line. We'll be keeping a very close eye on Alacrity Scourge's performance, and will follow up on that as needed. Now these are some really, really interesting changes, because just giving Necros access to green numbers, giving them a support build, that opens up a whole nother can of worms. That, power creep, you have access to so much, but you can already do so much. Heal Scourge is a build on its own. There is no build like it in the game. While other classes have the ability to revive people, like, Warrior War Banner, Guardian Signet, Search and Rescue. Search and Rescue is probably the closest thing to what Necromancers are capable of doing on a very, very low cooldown. For those of you who don't know what a Heal Scourge can do, they are effectively the vacuum cleaners of Guild Wars 2. They can just perform a quick on your party and suddenly you're alive again. If you have no idea what I'm talking about, and you have ever gone into Bone Skinner Strike Mission, you were probably carried by a Heal Scourge. Well of Blood. This skill now applies regeneration with every pulse. Okay? Ritual of Life. So the revive percentage from 7 to 2%. Okay. Bit of a nerf, but I always found the power of the Heal Scourge was its ability to suck, get you out of danger, pull you out of a harmful AoE, then you start rezzing, This probably just means the Heal Scourge probably may have to press F a bit more. Which is, F in chat, but it's not a big deal. You're still very powerful. It's like you have a unique, powerful effect that no one else in the game can do. Just don't make it as ridiculous, Bring it in line with everything else. So I am in support of these changes. Life Siphon. The skill is no longer channeled and will instead perform a single attack. Enemies struck by the initial attack will be dealt damage over time, and the user will be healed when damage is dealt. This is really cool for Necro, because this is the other suck ability, like the suck ability. And now you can cast other skills in the middle of Shroud while you're doing it. Cast those death bolts and shit. There you go, it's cool. Life from Death. This trait no longer revives allies and now increases outgoing healing. That's fine. I don't revive allies, but keep them from dying in the first place. More barrier, sure. Banshee's Wail no longer increases outgoing healing, probably because of that. Life on Death. Transfusion. Now only... Okay, Transfusion. This is the suck. This trait only teleports downed allies when initially activated. Reduce the revival pulse from 2 to 1% when the Scourge... Elite specialization in PvE only, so it's still Transfusion is still good in World v World to do the sucks, save people and get them behind walls, to get people out of combat. Still good. Transfusion is still powerful, but you're not going to be a moving vacuum cleaner anymore. So whenever you press your Transfusion, you need to be dead sure. All right, this is the spot where I'm reviving people, not just press Transfusion and drag the people with you. So a bit more skill involved into it. Unholy Feast. Spiteful Spirit. The trait now removes boons instead of converting them into conditions. Skill no longer... and cooldown, and then... no, convert boons to conditions, Okay. So, across the board, they didn't mention this up here. I'm not sure why they didn't. But my interpretation of this is... Corrupt Boon is a skill that Necromancers have. Used a lot in PvP. You use it in PvE when... or you use it in Fractals when no pain, no gain is there. I guess ArenaNet is just taking out the boon strips. You can still strip boons. You can still remove the guy's running man. You can still remove the guy's stability. But you're not going to just get obscene amounts of damage out of them unless you're casting Corrupt Boon. They're just making it boon strip is boon strip, Corrupt Boon is Corrupt Boon. I like this. Yeah, I'm gonna say I like this because in World v World, Scourges are pretty insane damage dealers. Okay, Scourges are very powerful in World versus World Zerging because not only do they provide a lot of condition damage, they can do a lot of barrier, boon stripping, or corruption in the old case, but now it's just going to be stripping in this case. And they were so versatile, so tanky because of all that barrier. I think bringing them in line was... This is a good idea because it's very discouraging when you run in a Zerg and you have you got your 5 stacks of stability, 25 stacks of might, ticking alacrity, quickness, swiftness, and then some dipshit Necromancer comes over and then just presses Scepter 3, and then suddenly that line of boons is suddenly a line of conditions. And as a warrior, I only have so many shake it offs. So it is what it is. It's a nerf. F Necromancers, but I think it was necessary. Cooldown. Alright, cooldown. Desert Empowerment. This trait has been moved to Grandmaster tier, replacing Feed from Corruption. Okay. Now grants Alacrity when you give them Barrier. So granting people Barrier gives them Alacrity. So you're just constantly shoving out Barrier. Alright, so you're essentially just a heal Alacrity mechanist, but better. Or cooler, I don't know. Sandstorm Shroud. This skill now pulses barrier, a new barrier, okay. More barrier sources. Gives you might when you apply barrier. You already gave a pretty considerable amount of might as a heal Scourge, so this is good too. Heal Scourge is looking really powerful, boys. The skill now grants reduced barrier to allies. Sadistic Steering. This trait no longer reduces the cooldown of punishment skills, increase the burning duration from 2 to 4 seconds in PvP World v World. Use cooldown. Desiccate. This skill also grants Fury to nearby allies. Increase might stacks from 8 seconds to 8 stacks for 9 seconds. Reduce the cooldown from 20 to 16 seconds. So, might stacks, poggers. And Fury. You're a source of Fury now. Necromancers have a source of Fury. Wow. Serpent Siphon. The skill has been reworked. It will now send a serpent to the target area that will detonate upon areas and on arrival. Allies in the area will gain barrier, regeneration, and Aegis. Enemies will be poisoned and one of their boons will be converted into Torment. Reduce cooldown from 25 to 20 seconds. This seems pretty fun. Oof. Now, 50% might seem like a lot, but this might be also a little bit confusing. Path of Corruption is a trait line in the Curses thing, I believe. But it basically reduces the recharge of one of your Shroud skills, I believe. And what this means is the one that you spam in World vs. World to just constantly remove boons and shit on people. This is the trait... this is the trait that increases the amount of boons stripped or conditions converted or boons converted into conditions or whatever the fuck from 1 to 2. And this trait in Curses is now affecting Scourges, so wow. So they nerfed Scourge by nerfing another trait. This is similar to what I was saying before. This is a simple and elegant solution to a problem that I don't want to say it's 300 IQ on the dev team, but it's just a slight well, it's a 50% cooldown nerf on a very important skill in world versus world. But it only affects it if you're doing the double conversion. I do believe this is a good trait. Sorry for rambling. I apologize. I'm going to get back on topic. But this is a simple and elegant solution to a problem that I believe was happening in world versus world. Scourges make my boons go away and also do a lot of damage. Just toe them in line with the rest of us. I believe these are good changes. I'm also in favor of the alacrity changes. But just I hope Heal Scourge isn't insanely overpowered, because it's good right now. Giving it green numbers will make it even better. Harbinger. Vials. Cooldown. Nothing really to say there. Alright. Ranger. Spirits won't be granting alacrity moving forward. We've taken this opportunity to do a larger pass on the skill type. Spirits will now trigger a smaller effect when summoned, slam the ground for a more powerful effect, and finally grant boons for a shorter period of time. Druid was the natural place to slot in an alacrity build. While we decided to give Untamed access to quickness, Nature Magic is also getting a larger set of changes to solidify it, as a support trait line. Rounding out the Ranger changes are some improvements to Sword and introducing a condition damage build for Druid. Not sure what they're talking about here. Conde Druid's been a thing for a long time, but, you know. Pounce. So, Sword skill. Replaces Monarch's Leap. Deliver a leaping strike and gain vigor when striking an enemy. This deals increased damage to targets that have movement impaired or disabled. Okay. Just a leap. Swashbuckly. Nice. Serpent Strike. This skill has been moved to the third slot and has been reworked. You will now leap to your target while evading. Okay. Applying Poison and Cripple on hit. This skill will immobilize instead of cripple if the target is movement impaired or disabled. Spirits have been reworked. A spirit will now grant an initial effect when summoned, slam the ground for a secondary effect, then grant boons to nearby allies for a period of time. I like these spirit changes because they're just, honestly, as an Alacrity Untamed or an Alacrity Druid, these just felt like buttons. Just press buttons and everyone gets Alacrity. Cool. Spirits now are kind of like, okay, let's see how they work. I haven't played with them yet, but... Farsighted. Increases the minimum damage from bonus 5 to 10 in PvE only. Well, Power Soul Beasts, enjoy your 5% buff. I don't know what you did to deserve it. Strider's Strength. Replaces Strider's Defense. Power, okay. Power, gain might, okay, maybe Sword might actually be viable. PvP, I don't know. Rejuvenation. This trait now triggers when using a beast skill instead of being struck. Oh. So, for those of you who don't know, this is a trait that if you are struck within the threshold of 50%, and then you take damage, you just get regeneration. So now it's more active use. It's also interesting because Instinctive Reaction is also one of these things. It's a, you get hit, then effect triggers. Now it's being moved to a more active, I want to actually use my trait line. I want to use my trait line abilities and not wait to get hit. This is nice. I like these changes. No longer grants quickness and instead grants regeneration to nearby allies when using a healing skill. So a lot of access to regeneration granting, instances of regeneration granting, which I like because later in the Druid review we'll see. Evasive Purity. This trait no longer has an internal cooldown. This is a pretty big buff. It currently has a 10-second cooldown, and what it does is every time you dodge, you lose a non-damaging and a damaging condition. You lose 2 conditions for the price of rolling. That's insane. And now it doesn't have a cooldown, so double dodge, 4 conditions gone. You combine that with a... Damn, it's pretty crazy. Windborne Notes. This is what I like. This trait will now heal allies to whom you grant regeneration. So all these extra instances of regeneration, it seems to be building up into a pretty viable actual active healing build outside of Celestial Avatar. Seems like it could be fun. Protective Ward. Trait has been reworked. Cast Lesser Guard when you swap pets. Invigorating Bond. This trait now uses the Ranger's healing power, heals allies around the Ranger, and grants protection and vigor to allies. I like this. This trait has been reworked. Spirits and slam the sound. Okay, so the spirits just do more damage. Sure. I'm going to hold judgment back on this to see if this is even worth using, because I have no idea how these new spirits work. We'll see how they look. Cooldown, 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 cooldown. Druid. Grace of the Land. This trait now gives alacrity instead of might. So we have come full circle from Grace of the Land, once providing 15 or 10% flat damage increase or whatever it was back at the launch of HOT, to just getting might, to now it's alacrity. We've really come full circle, it's insane. I like this. W. Rejuvenating Tides. The skill now grants might to nearby allies in addition to its additional... Yeah, I'm getting tired, guys. I apologize. I haven't spoken this long in one take in a very long time. Natural Convergence. This trait now grants might to nearby allies every pulse. Okay. Blood Moon. This trait replaces Primal Echoes. Daze nearby foes when you become a Celestial Avatar. Bleed foes you immobilize or disable. Okay, so this is where the Condi Druid is coming in, so it's actual offensive use for Celestial Avatar. Celestial Avatar 5, you know, that big... I can never remember that skill's name for the life of me. Natural Balance replaces Natural Stride. Deal increased damage and take reduced damage for a period of time after entering or exiting Celestial Avatar. So, Soul Barbs for Druids. Cool. This trait replaces Ancient Seeds. Your Celestial Avatar abilities inflict conditions on enemies. Okay. Wow. What? So this is what they meant by Condi Druid. Wow, okay. That could be fun. Glyph of Alignment. Increases bleeding duration from 8 to 10 seconds in PvE. PvE. Non-celestial version of this. Now applies stability. Rangers have access to AoE stability? Hello? Natural Mender. Increased astral force regeneration from 5 to 8 in PvE. Cosmic Ray. Radius is... I guess this is Staff 1, right? So it's got more girth. Is that what I'm understanding? Staff 1 has more girth. Just a 100% increase to girth. Explain briefly. Lingering Light. I'm getting through this. Lingering Light. This trait no longer grants increased outgoing healing after Celestial Avatar, instead reduces the recharge of Celestial Avatar every time another player is healed by a Celestial Avatar skill. Wow. Okay. Druid. I might play Druid. Unironically. I might play a lot of Druid, because this seems fun to play. Excuse me. Soul Beast. Spiritual Reprieve. Reduce casting time. Reduce cooldown. Cool. Untamed. Cooldown, 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 cooldown. Restorative Strikes. This trait no longer passively converts strike damage to healing, instead converts strike damage to healing when you or your pets unleash. Nice. It's a more active use of my abilities rather than just waiting for shit to happen. Let Loose. This replaces Fervent Force. Fervent Force is the skill that reduces your cooldowns if you interrupt stuff. Grant boons to nearby allies. I'm going to assume that's quickness and might or fury or something. When you use an unleashed ambush skill. Quick DPS untamed might be a thing. Recharge your unleashed ambush skills when you swap weapons. This is a really good change. I don't know about you guys, but I can never tell when I can use untamed unleashed abilities, because it's just this tiny little icon on the bottom right of my screen that lets me know if I'm unleashed. And keeping track of, you know, that 10-second internal timer, is it affected by alacrity? Now it's just swap weapon, I can do my ambush skill. Swap weapon, I can do my ambush skill. Swap weapon, I can do my ambush skill. I like this. I like this. This simplifies things a lot for a monkey brain like me. And I might play Untamed more. It also seems to be an excuse to not just camp hammer. Might use some other weapon skills. I don't even know what the other ambush skills are for the other weapons. I don't think I've ever seen them in game. I just know about the hammer spin. That's it. So this could be fun. Herald's quickness application is being moved to Elevated Compassion and is being tied to maintaining upkeep skills. In its place, Draconic Echo will now cause facet passive effects to grant additional bonuses to the Herald. Vindicator is also getting some adjustments in World vs. World to bring it in line with more other support builds. Banish Enchantment now has a 5-second cooldown in World vs. World. Wow, okay. So you can't just spam Boom Strip on one particular dude. F. Aggressive Agility. No longer removes immobilization, instead grants resistance. Okay, so this is when you use a movement ability like, star 5, you remove immobilization. But you still get resistance, so you still get the use of the effect, but it can just be removed. You still have a mode, but you can move. Okay. I'm okay. Not too bad. Mark Defiance, this trait will now remove a damaging condition when it triggers. Cool. Buff. Forced engagement. So this is the Dwarf Chain Taunt. Reduce the number of targets from 5 to 1, and increased range from 600 to 900. So, the ability to AoE taunt a group of players from 600 yards away is gone now, but they're just changing forced engagement to a one-on-one, but from higher range. Thematically, I think this change is good. It's a bit of a nerf in terms of, general effectiveness, but a 600-yard AoE taunt is pretty ridiculous, so this is okay. Battle Scars increase base healing from 58 to 58 to 68 in PvP only. Healing buffs, Bog. And this is what they said for Herald. So this trait now grants boons to nearby allies when 6 or more points of upkeep. Yep, this just means essentially all this is just support build for Herald is going to be on the healing. Is going to be on the healing trait, because Elevated Compassion is the healing power trait. They don't want it on the DPS trait, that you giving boons. Support builds are support builds, DPS builds are DPS builds. Going away from hybrids. So I like this. It's good for class identity, giving it actual differences. It's good. Vindicator, reduce base barrier and healing. Just some Vindicator nerfs F. Sorry guys. Thief. Now if you guys, I said to take what I said with a grain of salt about Mesmers. Please take what I say about Thief with a spoonful of salt. I don't know if that made sense, but whatever. But please, I'm not a Thief main. I probably spent the least time on Thief in the game, so I just want to give my opinion on this. In addition to moving Alacrity off of Wells, we want to improve Spectre's ability to play a support role in larger group situations. Ally-targeted Spectre skills will now grant their effects in an area around the target. Shade Step has been reworked to allow Shadow Shroud skills to affect multiple allies around the tethered target. We are also introducing a quickness build for Deadeye. Fire for effect will cause every stolen skill to become Steal Time, which now grants quickness in an area. We've also bumped up Daredevil's staff damage while reducing the damage of the more powerful stolen skills to make the build more consistent. Okay. Improvisation. This trait reduces the cooldowns of all utility skills by a certain percentage when you steal, instead of recharging a random skill. I'm going to be perfectly honest, I had no idea this trait even existed, so I guess this is good. This seems like a good change. Just recharging your random skills, instead it's just better to have a blanket cooldown reduction. I think this is good. Endless Stamina, the trait being reworked, rename Fluid Strikes, bonus damage for using a movement skill or completing a Shadow Step. My understanding is since the Daredevil change, or not the Daredevil change, the Deadeye change, where you can move while you're kneeling, you still have to use a lot of movement abilities to get around, like your 4, rifle 4, things like that, just to position yourself. So a damage increase for using movement skills, that seems good for Deadeye for me. I don't know. Maybe this is good, maybe this is nothing. I have no idea. But also, just from the obvious PvP, the PvP implications, whenever a thief shadow steps, he's just going to be doing more damage to me, which, I guess that's 100% a buff. Good for you. Pain response. This trait has been reworked. It now removes a damaging condition for the thief when completing a dodge roll. Very thiefy. Sounds cool. This trait has been reworked. Grants thief resistance when using a movement skill. A 5-second internal cooldown. It's very thiefy. Sounds cool. Swindler's Equilibrium. This trait now recharges steel by 1 second per trigger with a 1 second cooldown. Cool. Assassin's Reward increases base healing per initiative spent. 102 to 151. Buffs. Those are nice. Upper hand. Cooldown reduction. Cool. Daredevil. Buff, 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 buff. So they just increase a bunch of the power coefficients. Yep. Cooldown reduction, cooldown reduction, cooldown reduction. The only thing I wanted to pose is I don't really know too much about thieves at all, but I do know for Kadim, the final boss in Wing 6, thieves are able to solo the lamp because they can steal magnetic bong from Kadim, and they can do some shenanigans underneath in the lamp and be able to solo clear it in seconds. If there are any Giga Chad thieves in chat, not chat, sorry, in the comments, just please let me know. As a raid enjoyer, I want to know if this actually affects anything. Do I have to learn how to do the lamp now? If so, let me know. Throw on stable reagents, so just nerf. Time in a bottle. Is this... I'm gonna assume this is the one from... Is this the one that Boon Thieves use on Mersat Overseer and Matthias? I'm not 100% sure. Maybe this is a nerf, maybe this is a nerf to it? I don't know. Stolen skills. Stolen skills now grant their beneficial effects to in a radius around the caster. Reduce casting time by approximately 25%. So, Deadeyes are just snipers that shit out quickness. You stay near the Deadeye, you receive quickness, and you just go pew pew pew. Sounds fine. I'm all for more build diversity, but... yeah, I'm all for build diversity. Steal time, increase quickness duration from 3 to 5, steal resistance, so buffs. Malicious intent. Okay, so malice buildup is increased, fire for effect. Trait line no longer requires a target to grant boon to allies. Additionally, equipping this trait guarantees that the stolen skill will be steal time all the time, so you always get the quickness one. Understood. Shadow Flare. Okay, so it's just a one shot instead of a damaging landmine thing. Reduce cooldown, fair enough. Shadow Swap. So this is the movement ability I was talking about with Deadeye. They can swap to one place, shoot, go back to the other, shoot, go back and forth, using that, abusing the damage buff that you get from, what is it, Fluid Strikes? I don't know, this seems like it could be fun. One in the chamber. This trait now also increases the damage of stolen skills in addition to its previous effects. Binding Shadow. Reduce the cooldown from 30 seconds to 20 seconds in PvE and... okay, cooldown reduction, blah, fair enough. Spectre. Ally targeted scepter skills will now grant a lesser effect to additional allies in a radius around the target. Really cool. I love it. Gives me more of a reason to click on my allies and auto-attack them instead of the boss. Second opinion. This trait now grants condition damage instead of healing power when equipped. You get condition damage when using a scepter. This is good. Shallow Grave, rework, now causes Siphon to transfer conditions to a targeted enemy or remove conditions from the Spectre and their targeted ally. This, I believe, could have some really fun play in PvP. Just having the ability to Cosmo dump all of your conditions on that pesky Necromancer, or save your ally. Or yourself, potentially. It's really cool. I like this. Warrior. Now, I'm a warrior main, and the reason why I made this video, the reason why I'm only making this video is because of the warrior changes. I don't make videos. I'm just some random dipshit. But when I saw some of these warrior changes, I wanted to... We're not gonna... Let's just get into it. With quickness being removed from banners, we wanted to introduce both a quickness and an alacrity build to warrior elite specializations, and have done so for Berserker and Bladesworn, respectively. We'll be keeping an eye on how these builds perform relative to their counterparts, and will make follow-up adjustments as needed. We also tuned up Rifle and Offhand Dagger to make them more effective options. Crack Shot. This trait no longer reduces the cooldown of Rifle, Longbow, and Harpoon skills. It's just the one that... This is the trait that modifies your one. Gives you bleeding for rifle, gives you burning for longbow, bleeding for spear. There you go. Fan of Fire. Reduce cooldown from 6 seconds to 5 seconds in PvP. In PvE only, so Condi Berserker buffs, kind of nice. It might also affect the Condi Berserker rotation, because being able to get as many Fan of Fires out, it's important in your rotation. Arcing Arrow, reduce ammunition recharge time from 10 to 8, just damage buffs. They didn't do it in World v World because Arcing Arrow would... Those things are like ICBM nukes in World versus World. They destroy people, especially when you're in Berserk mode, so PvE only, good change, fair enough. Smoldering Arrow, reduce ammunition recharge time from 20 to 16, this is good. Smoldering Arrow recently got the change where it's a daze and having 3 charges, so longbow has been looking more and more to be the quintessential go-to ranged weapon for warrior, just with what you have access to. Powerful auto attack, powerful melee ability and fan of fire, powerful targeted ground target ability with Arcing Arrow, on-hand quick fire disable, and pin down. The longbow immobilizer also does an obscene amount of bleeding. Longbow's pretty good, so let's see what they've done to rifle to bring it up to par, because that's what they've been claiming. Flurry. You can now move while channeling the skill, so this is the regular sword F1. Reduce the overall number of hits and animation time, increase the bleeding duration per hit from... Okay, so it's gonna... What essentially this means is you can move while doing it, it's gonna do the same amount of damage, you're just gonna spend less time swinging your sword around. Alright, here's the rifle changes. Fierce Shot. So this is... Increase the power coefficient from 4 to 4.6 in PvP and World v World. Not sure why you didn't do that in PvE. I really don't know why. But whatever. This seems like a change that you should just do for everything, since rifle damage sucks. Volley. Reduce the cooldown from 5 to 1 second. Reduce the ammunition charge time from 12 to 10. This is really fun. I like this change a lot because... being able to shoot your gun 5 times and then you have to wait for 5 seconds before you can do another volley, it's quite sad, especially when you have mechanists or engineers running around with their rifles and it feels like these players are running around with Gatling guns and I'm still firing a musket. It's strange. I don't know why they didn't put this into PvE, but, you know. Volley. Reduce the cooldown from... explosive shell, so F3 the shotgun, reduce the cooldown from 6 to 1, so just damage, increase the power coefficient from that to that. So they're just buffing damage in PvP and World versus World, but not in PvE. I guess they want rifle to stay in World versus World, but I'm not sure. Neglecting PvE is the answer, because rifle in PvE can still be fun from an RP standpoint. Brutal Shot. Reduce the cooldown from 8 to 1 second. This skill will cause you to evade backward and immediately fire a shot at the end of the roll. From a usability perspective, this is great. It's more similar to the Char racial skill evade hidden pistol. Just the dodge roll always felt clunky to me because the character would pause for a second, you would lose control of your character animation wise, and then you would just fire a shot and slowly dodge back. It felt clunky to use, so I'm hoping that this will be better. Berserker Stance, reduce the cooldown from 40 to 25 seconds. Balance Stance, 50 to 40 seconds, so they want us to use stances in PvP again. Okay. Soldier's Comfort now grants protection. Martial Cadence now grants stability instead of quickness. Now this is a really good change, in my opinion. We've avoided this problem of Blade Sword stacking. Oh, let me just explain what Blade Sword stacking is. A group of 4 warriors is able to output enough in full DPS gear. In full DPS gear, just doing their rotations, were able to maintain 100% quickness uptime in raid encounters if they just have one person in that subgroup who is able to provide alacrity. Just with martial cadence and those little bits of quickness, Blade Swans are able to output and shit out quickness on top of doing their insanely bursty, powerful rotation. It was looking like a power chrono meta all over again, where the meta was to just take 10 Mesmers and 10 Mesmers, 8 power chronos and 2 support chronos into a raid, and then just destroy it. This is good. So give everyone stability, you know, while you're charging your dragon trigger. I always love more stability. I'll always love more stability. I'm never going to say no more to stability. So I didn't need the quickness. I did not need the quickness. I didn't care about the quickness. It didn't do for me. It didn't really do anything for me as a DPS warrior. So this is a good. This is an ArenaNet W. Fix the problem from ever happening. Prevent the problem from ever happening. There we go. Peak performance. This trait no longer reduces the cooldown of physical skills because everything got its cooldown reduced, including Rampage, which I'm surprised about. Because ArenaNet has always been wanting to nerf this ability, but they just flat out gave us a 30-second buff. So, thank you, ArenaNet. Stomp is pretty powerful, so you know they had to do it all. But you know, it is what it is. Signets all gone down, fair enough. Shouts all gone down, fair enough. Double standards now give resolution instead of quickness. So now I know I'm never going to click on double standards ever again. Because why would you when you have Brawler's Recovery? I don't know. I'm never going to use this, but it is what it is. Flaming Flurry. Reduce the number of hits from 4 to 6, reduce casting time, so they did the same thing with Flurry. Now, this is the reason why I made this video. This is the reason why I am so upset. Arc Divider. Reduced the number of strikes from 3 to 1. 3 to 1. Reduced the casting time from 1.86 seconds to 0.8 seconds. I bet it still has the aftercast. Reduced total power coefficient from 5.1 to 2.5 in PvE and 2.1 to 1.82 PvE. Who in the fucking right mind? Who in their right fucking mind thought this was a good idea? Spinning to win is quintessential warrior class fantasy. You should be able to spin in a circle with a big fucking sword and everything should die. Because that's how it works in real life. You balance this because warriors, essentially, are people using swords in gunfights. While everyone is using magic, engineering, druidic magic, calling on the gods of death and the avatars of destruction. I am just a dude with a big fucking sword and a lot of anger issues. And I want to spin 3 times, ArenaNet, not 1, 3. And I want to make sure everyone fucking dies when I do it. Sorry about the rant, I apologize. If you're still here, I just want to play this video on why I just feel so passionate about this skill in particular. It's not a particular attachment to this skill, but it's just warrior class fantasy at its peak. There's no other reason to use greatsword other than this skill. So just watch this short clip of me being very bad at PvP. Now, one thing you're going to notice is I play with action camera, so I am, well, I'm terrible. I'm pretty terrible. And my camera angles or camera movement might give you just watch. So I go in, they're stealth, so I'm just going to drop a hammer to try and cripple them, get them out of stealth. They show up and go in on us, and you can watch what happens. I'm just randomly swinging my hammer. Oh my god, just spin, spin, spin. What's going on? Oh, I'm going in that direction. My partner's dying. Oh shit. I just wasted all my adrenaline. I'm not even hitting anything. I'm just running around. Alright. Oh, I got a stun. Oh, I'm susceptible to blind, and just because I'm blind, you know what? No, but here's the thing. Both of these guys just died in the last round to me double blade swarming, double arc dividering both of them with blood reckoning, and I killed them both in a glorious whirlwind. So both of these guys know if they get close to me, they fucking die. So watch how none of them do anything as I just pick up my buddy. Too late. And then, hey, you asked for it, now fucking die! Now fucking die! You think you can run? I'm coming straight for you and you're going to fucking die! See all these evasions? I don't care. 100 blades. You're fucking dead. I'm coming for you next, you little thief. Get back over here, you little bitch! Anyway, and the rest of the clip is just me being really bad at PvP, but I just wanted to share that experience with you guys because I don't think the answer to this... Because if there's anything you can take from that clip, two things. I barely did anything to deserve killing both of those two players because I just spun around and I missed so many abilities. So I agree that the damage is definitely a bit too high. But that's not due to Arc Divider. It's due to a bunch of other changes that you yourself gave, ArenaNet. Not due to Arc Divider being crazy. Don't kill Warrior Class Fantasy because you added in a couple of buffs a couple months ago and forgot about them. I'm going in game now just to demonstrate what the bloody hell I mean. Anyway, logging into Need for Sleep. And it's quite sad because I'm logging in right now and I'm thinking this might be the last time I get to use Arc Divider properly. Before I do that, let's just finish these changes, because none of this shit even fucking matters anyway. Winds of Disenchantment, nerf for the millionth time, no one cares, we're still going to use it in World v World. Break enchantments, increase the number of boons from 2 to 4, who gives a shit about PvE boon strip? It's nice, cool, I can use it in fractals more often, I don't give a fuck. Wastrel's Ruin, this skill now removes boons when striking an enemy. Okay, cool. Blade Storm, alright, grants barrier when hitting an enemy, cool, I'm still never gonna fucking use Dagger offhand because why would I not use an axe? It's so much better. Daring Dragon, this trait has been reworked. Dragon Slash has a lower maximum charge level but consumes more flow per charge, but its damage has been per charge has been increased. Green Alacrity, green Alacrity, who fucking cares? I don't need green numbers on Warrior to feel good. Let's just go back to my Arc Divider. Oh my god. Okay, so I'm just here chilling in World v World. So this is Class Fantasy for Warrior, where you can just... You got your big fucking sword, my big flaming fucking sword, and then, oh my god, I'm just gonna damage you, I'm just gonna... And then... Now, if you skipped here, just to get the too long did not read of my opinions, then here you go. If you stuck through the entire video and you're watching this after my descent into madness, thank you for putting up with me and my voice. It's so here I would just like to consolidate my thoughts for you here now, so you can leave this place, or you can leave this video understanding what the fuck a stimmer was talking about. So this has been summarized. Flanking change, W. Confusion change, I don't know math, but F confusion, bro. Professions. Elementalist, I'm going to be definitely playing Support Tempest. I'm going to be having a lot of fun experimenting with that. Quick Catter might be cool, but Elementalist in PvP is really powerful. So Quick Catter's just running around, Hammer Catter's just running around, just destroying people. Nothing new, but no PvP nerfs, so... In fact, they just got buffed. NG, W all around, Scrapper tweaks look fun, I love the idea behind it. Minor nerfs here and there, but whatever. Guardian, lots of quality of life update, quick firebrands are basically on strike right now, and minor nerfs, that's about it. And yeah, mantras suck, so ArenaNet need to fix mantras. Mesmer, Mirage is gone, play Crab Rave, and Virtuoso buffs and nerfs, it's alright. I'm kind of mixed about Mesmer, but I don't really know it, so I don't really know the class. Necro, Heal Alax Scourge, I'm really excited for. I'm scared that it might be insanely much too powerful just because of giving green numbers, and with the toolkit it already has, even with the nerf toolkit, it's still really powerful, so we'll see how that plays out and how the numbers work out. Corrupt boons for Necro were all brought back in line, so Corrupt boon is Corrupt boon. Scepter 3 is just a boon strip. It's not a corrupt boon. It's corrupt boon. The skill corrupt boon is corrupt boon. Ranger, Druid hype. I'm fucking excited to play Druid. That could be cool. Spirit changes. I mean, Spirit's going through the 13th rework. Let's see if this one works. Nature magic, the trait line, and a lot of other Ranger skills have been brought from 2012 to 2023. A lot of those things like, oh, I got hit under 50%. Now you get it for like casting a beast ability or something else. Thief, Quickness Deadeye was added to the game, and Spectre got a huge quality of life buff with just the shit that you can do on Spectre. It's really fun. Core skills got a big rework, but I'm a low IQ thief, so tell me what. Warriors, just watch the fucking warrior section of the video, man. Just watch the warrior section, bro.